So Michael Saylor is officially not buying Bitcoin and buying more USD. That's right. Strategy is accumulating more US dollars. They're not buying Bitcoin with those US dollars. Is he preparing? Is Strategy preparing for a potential Bitcoin bear market? And he's not the only one sending mixed signals. We've got a strange report from Van Eck to cover. But before we get into all of that, let's break down exactly what Saylor just did. So let's get straight into today's show, ladies and gentlemen. First, let's start off with a meme. It wouldn't be Simply Bitcoin if we didn't start off with a meme. And I mean, he's saying the quiet part out loud. He's saying, ride the bear. I mean, there's not a lot to interpret there, right? It's pretty obvious. It's pretty up in your face. And he posted this on December 23rd of 2025. Follows up in December 20th of 2025. He posts another meme of him. Bears can't see the orange. But, you know, you could be making the argument, okay, Nico, he's just trolling. He doesn't actually mean that. You know, he's just saying, like, look, like, hodl, like, don't take any of this seriously. Hodl through the bear. But again, don't pay attention to what they say. Pay attention to what they do. And this is what I'm looking at. So recently, on December 22nd, 2025, Strategy made a major announcement. But check this out. Usually, when they make these types of announcements, you usually get an announcement of a Bitcoin buy. That wasn't the case this time. Quote, Strategy has increased its USD reserved by $748 million and now holds $2.19 billion worth of cash and 671,000 Bitcoin. So again, that's in stark contrast to how Saylor and Strategy have been basically accumulating Bitcoin for the last couple of years or so. Every time they have some spare cash or they raise some spare cash, what do they do with it? They smash buy Bitcoin immediately. This time, it's a little bit different. They're not smash buying Bitcoin immediately. What they're doing instead is accumulating a cash position. Why else would you accumulate a cash position if you didn't believe that potentially Bitcoin could go lower and you can use some of that cash, obviously, to buy more Bitcoin at a lower price? Now, again, this is all speculative. What I learned from 2025, ladies and gentlemen, is that every single person got it completely wrong. They just got it wrong. Your favorite influencer, your favorite person that's doing TA online, every single person did not expect 2025 to play out the way it has. And to be blunt, you had gold outperforming Bitcoin. You had the S&P 500 outperforming Bitcoin. You had silver outperforming Bitcoin. Basically, everything outperformed Bitcoin in 2025. Now, you can take it, you could take that in many different ways. You could say, okay, that sets up 2026 to be an incredible year, a parabolic year. A lot of people are speculating and saying just that. And a lot of people are saying that, Nico, this is just part of the 4-year cycle. The cycle played out a lot sooner because of the introduction of the ETFs. This cycle, the all-time high was reached before the halving, right? That's never happened before in Bitcoin's history. So you could say that all the gains were actually made in the first 2 years of the Bitcoin bull run, and now we're starting to enter into the early innings of a correction, of a bear market. And again, it seems like Strategy, like the Bitcoin treasury company, again, Saylor's memeing it with multiple memes. You could take that as you will. But again, other than the memes, you could pay attention to what they're actually doing, and it seems like they're hedging their position a little bit. And that's why they're accumulating this much cash, and they're not deploying that cash. They're sitting on that cash. Why else would you sit on cash unless you thought Bitcoin was going to go lower? And that's exactly what Strategy is doing. Now, Peter Schiff, you guys all know the deal with Peter Schiff. He is the ultimate Bitcoin bear. He dislikes Bitcoin tremendously. He's all about gold. And he follows up with this announcement, and he says, it seems to me that you're building dollar reserves as you realize you will soon need them. Given rising inflation as the Fed cuts rates and continues QE, why not build gold reserves instead of US dollar reserves? That's what Tether is doing. So again, this is one of the rare situations, one of the rare years where Peter Schiff could take his victory lap. Like, I can't believe I'm even saying that, but that's just the reality. The reality is that gold had a fantastic year. I think it's 60 to 70% up year to date, and also silver. I think it's more up. Silver's more. It's up more than 100%. It's crazy. It's crazy that these metals that don't even do anything are outperforming Bitcoin the way they did. I have an article for you guys during the culture segment. I have a lot of theories behind as to why a lot of this stuff is happening. Look, the game changed the moment that the ETFs were introduced in January of 2024. As soon as Wall Street got in, these Wall Street shenanigans started happening. I mean, you guys have seen the price action. It doesn't even make sense. Every 10 a.m. Every weekday, 10 a.m. hits, and you either have a Bitcoin fall down like 5% or rise 5%. It's like clockwork. Like, what the hell is going on, right? So I think ever since Wall Street got in the game with the introductions of the ETFs, and then, of course, the treasury companies, I think that the game has fundamentally changed. And I think, as I was telling you guys yesterday, now we're heading into an era of uncertainty, which I would say is a good thing. And by the way, I'm not the only one saying this. You have Joe Carlasari. He's been around in the space for a long time. And he says, during my time in Bitcoin since 2015, the sentiment has never been worse, in my opinion. Today, I talked to a friend who has held since 2017. He is seriously considering selling his entire seven-figure position. He didn't even think about selling in 2022 at the FTX bottom. This really feels different. And that goes to what I've been saying. We're in completely uncharted territory. None of the metrics that point out that indicate that Bitcoin has reached an all-time high or Bitcoin has reached a peak, none of those metrics have hit. None of those metrics are indicating that we hit a euphoric top, right? So it seems like this cycle, if it has peaked indeed, it peaked on apathy. That's really never happened before. Every single peak, whether it was 2017, 2013, or 2021, we entered some type of euphoric phase. We never hit that phase this cycle. I would say the last time we felt some type of euphoria was at the end of 2024 and in the beginning of 2025. And it seems like even companies, the likes of Strategy, are preparing themselves with cash positions in order to, again, get that dip, right? Or potentially buy that dip. But I agree with Joe Carlasari. I mean, the sentiment is absolutely atrocious. I don't think we've seen this in an extremely long time. We haven't seen this. I can't remember the last time we've seen this level of uncertainty. I can't remember the last time people didn't feel like Bitcoin was this absolute sure bet we were going to win. I don't remember the last time the market felt this way. And another interesting data point for you guys, if you look at the fear and greed index, it's like people are feeling extreme fear, right? And we haven't even had a crazy correction. Like a 30% correction in Bitcoin terms is not that wild, right? And people are still feeling extreme fear. So it's safe to say at this point, you can make an argument that we are in uncharted territory. I would say that's a good thing, because with that uncertainty comes opportunity, right? At the end of the day, Bitcoin, it's a risky investment. If you're looking at it that way, of course, you can look at it from an ideological perspective like I do. I say, look, Bitcoin's the best money the world has ever seen. If you've ever dealt with a wire transfer and you deal with the Bitcoin network, like you know that Bitcoin's going to win, right? A wire transfer is obfuscated. You don't know where that wire is when it's in transit. If you send a Bitcoin transaction, you know exactly, okay, look, here's my Bitcoin transaction. I sent it to you. It's a public ledger, right? It's instantaneous. You can send it anywhere around the world, right? You don't have to go through all the traditional hoops that you have to do with the traditional financial system. It's already better money, not to mention the fact that there's absolute scarcity. It has a 21 million cap supply of estimated 4 million of those 21 million are lost. So it's obviously better money, right? The Lightning Network is improving layer 2 tremendously. successfully, so the scaling stuff is getting figured out, it's better money. That is not up for discussion. That is not up for debate. But I think right now, people have lost their eye on the ball, right? I think this year, it was the year of the introduction of Wall Street. So the introduction of the ETFs, the success of the Bitcoin treasury companies, and people really lost the plot. They really forgot why we are here. And we are here to separate money and state. We are here to fix the money, fix the world, right? But anyways, I wanted to lay that out for you guys. And it's quite interesting, right? Because not too long ago, you heard a lot of things from Saylor like, hey, listen, we're never going to sell Bitcoin. You don't sell your Bitcoin. And it seems like that sentiment is changing based on market conditions. I mean, this was a clip from one of the presentations that he had not too long ago.
Above 1 times MNAV, the most efficient thing for a public company like ours to do is to sell the equity. Below 1 times MNAV, we just get lots of questions. And there are skeptics that are doubtful, well, could you sell the Bitcoin? Would you sell the Bitcoin? And the answer is yes, we could sell the Bitcoin. We could also sell Bitcoin derivatives. And we would do that because that's in the best interest of the shareholders. And because it's in the best interest of the shareholders, it's best for the company and therefore best for the Bitcoin community, as well as the credit community, as well as the equity investors.
So again, personally, I love Michael Saylor. I'm a big fan of Michael Saylor. I think what he's done for the space has been incredible, but it would be irresponsible of me not to call out the fact that this is a change in tune. This is a complete change in tune. It's always been, do not sell your Bitcoin. Now we might sell Bitcoin depending on market conditions, while simultaneously we are, building up a cash position. And the only reason you're building up a cash position as a Bitcoin treasury company is to kind of hedge your bet a little bit. In case Bitcoin goes lower, guess what? You have cash to deploy to buy cheaper sats, right? That's the only reason you would do it. Like, let's be real here, right? So anyways, and we're not the only ones to notice this here at Simply Bitcoin. Here is a Yahoo Finance article. Saylor's strategy raises reserve, pauses Bitcoin purchases. Michael Saylor's strategy bolstered its cash reserve to $2.19 billion and paused purchases of Bitcoin over the past weeks as the largest digital asset treasury company appears to be settling in for a long crypto winter. And again, this coincides with what the CEO of Strategy said on a recent podcast. We played you guys the clip where he even said crypto winter. Those are his words, not mine. The Tysons Corner, Virginia-based firm raised $748 million through the sale of common shares in the 7 days ended December 21st, according to a filing Monday with the SEC. It had purchased about $2 billion in Bitcoin over the previous 2 weeks, bringing its total holdings to around $60 billion. Earlier this month, Strategy created a $1.4 billion reserve to fund future dividend and interest payments in a bid to temper fears that it may be forced to sell Bitcoin if token prices continue to fall. Bitcoin has declined around 30% since reaching an all-time high in early October. Strategy shares have tumbled more than 50% during the same period. The stock was little changed at $164 on Monday. The company's MNAV, a key valuation metric comparing the firm's enterprise value to the value of its Bitcoin holdings, sat around 1.1 on Monday. And remember what he said on that video. If the MNAV goes below 1, then Strategy would consider selling Bitcoin. According to its website, a reminder that investors remain concerned that may soon turn negative after once commanding a significant premium. Strategy has about $824 million in interest and dividend payments annually. It continues to say the company's software business does not generate enough free cash flow to cover the dividend or interest payments. Bitcoin doesn't pay a dividend, right? So again, just pointing it out there, why it makes sense, why they're accumulating a cash position. It's a little bit of a hedge. And I know that Opti isn't here, and Opti is usually the bullish person on today's show. I've been telling you guys since like a month ago, everyone was giving me crap in the chat. I've been telling you guys, I said, I remember this feeling because I remember in 2017 and I remember in 2021, this feeling. And the feeling, it's almost as if like, the party's over type of thing. You get that type of feeling. Now, this time could be different. And I know that we say that every single time Bitcoin does this thing and it, you know, we peak and it goes down and it's always this time is different and there's just a super cycle and stuff like that. It could be different. And the reason I'm saying it could be different is that, again, the amount of institutional interest this cycle is something the likes of which we've never seen before in any other previous Bitcoin bull run. Bitcoin is already behaving differently than any other previous Bitcoin bull run. Like the fact that we peaked before the halving is already telling me that we're in uncharted territory. The fact that the meme, the 3 green, 1 red, if you don't know what that meme is, it's basically there's 3 green years in Bitcoin and then there's 1 red year, meaning Bitcoin goes up for 3 years and then it goes down for 1 year. That meme already has broken, ladies and gentlemen. Unless things change in the next 8 days, it seems like that meme is broken. So it's going to be 2 green, 1 red, and then 2026 yet to be determined, right? So we're already in uncharted territory. So the argument of this time is different is already a valid argument. The question is, and this is where absolutely nobody, including the institutional investors, right? Including all the reports that I've seen. This is what I do for a living, so I have to read all of this stuff. No one has any idea. And if they tell you otherwise, they're absolutely lying to you. No one has any idea how Bitcoin is going to perform in 2026, including myself. But I always take the position of, listen, right now, the 4-year cycle is intact and it's playing out like a 4-year cycle plays out. So if I were telling you anything otherwise, I would be lying to you. The 4-year cycle is intact until it's not. So I think we're going to find out in Q1 and Q2 of 2026 what is really going on. What is really going on with Bitcoin? Are we truly heading into a bear market? Are we going to see a 60, 70% correction? Or are we going to be hitting all-time highs? Because there's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me that are believing that that could be the case. Then there's also the Van Eck report. The Van Eck report is quite interesting. So Van Eck, again, no one knows what's going to happen with Bitcoin. That is the lesson of 2025. Take it. Take it, take that lesson. Bitcoin humbles everyone. It takes the path of maximum pain. Always has, always will, in my opinion. Bitcoin humbles you. So the best strategy long-term is stay humble, stay solvent, and stack sats. But anyways, let's check out this Van Eck report, what it says. Van Eck says, this is TFTC, our friends over at TFTC posted this, and they said Van Eck says 2026 is more likely a consolidation year for Bitcoin, not a melt up or collapse, with improving fundamentals and post-halving normalization. So it's quite interesting that they're saying that, and I'm going to get into the specifics of it. I'm going to read it, because again, that would mean that Bitcoin would have 2 years in a row that it's going sideways. Because 2025 was a sideways year for Bitcoin. If anything, it was a downward year for Bitcoin. I know it's only down 6%, but it was a downward year, right? So Van Eck is making the opportunity that, hey, listen, 2026 might be another sideways year. So we have 2 years back to back that Bitcoin has gone sideways. Anyways, digital assets enter 2026 with mixed but constructive signals. Bitcoin fell about 80% in the last cycle, but realized volatility has since dropped by roughly half, which implies a proportional drawdown of about 40% this time. The market has already absorbed roughly 35% at the same time. Bitcoin's historical 4-year cycle, which tends to peak in the immediate post-election window, remains intact following the early October 2025 high. That pattern suggests 2026 is more likely a consolidation year than a melt-up or collapse. Our outlook follows a three-lens framework. Global liquidity is mixed. Likely rate cuts provide support, but U.S. liquidity is tightening somewhat because AI-driven CapEx fears have collided with a more fragile funding market and pushed credit spreads wider. 2, leverage in the crypto ecosystem has reset after several washouts. 3, on-chain activity, while still soft, is beginning to improve. Against this backdrop, we favor a disciplined 1 to 3% Bitcoin allocation built through dollar cost averaging and by adding exposure during leverage unwinds and trimming into speculative excesses. We also note that quantum security has become an active topic inside the community, and while not an immediate threat, any coordinated response could resemble the first block size debate, where a transparent and technically rich public process pulled large numbers of new observers into the ecosystem and strengthening long-term engagement. For 2026, we continue to see the strongest opportunity in the capital-intensive pivot underway in Bitcoin mining. Operators are trying to fund both hash rate expansion and AI and HPC infrastructure at the same time. This is pushing balance sheets to their limits and widening the spread in cost of capital across the sector. Miners with hyperscaler partnerships are now raising straight debt on comparatively attractive terms, while second-tier operators are relying on dilutive converts or selling Bitcoin into weakness. We think this creates the cleanest consolidation setup since 2020 to 2021 and see the best risk reward in miners transitioning into energy-backed compute platforms with credible HPC economics, advantage power, and financing paths that do not require serial dilution. A second but more selective opportunity is emerging in digital payments and stablecoin settlements. Stablecoins are entering genuine business-to-business payment flows where they can improve working capital management and reduce cross-border settlement costs. However, pure-play public equities remain scarce, and many investors remain wary of volatile Layer 1 tokens. The more investable angle may sit in fintech and e-commerce platforms that can unlock margin leverage by shifting supplier payments, payouts, and cross-border settlements into stablecoins. High throughput chains will support much of this activity, and a few tokens tied to genuine usage may benefit, but we believe the most durable opportunity may lie in the operating companies enabling adoption rather than broad token exposure. So interesting take again from Vanek. And I'll tell you guys what I personally believe, what I've been telling you guys for the last couple of weeks while you guys are all calling me a bear and saying Nico's bearish and Nico's depressing and Nico's this. Listen, the 4-year cycle is intact until it's not. That's number one. Number two, and this is a reality, Saylor and his company strategy is potentially preparing for a crypto winter. If the 4-year cycle is indeed intact, that means that 2026 is going to be a potential Bitcoin bear market. Now, the good news, and I want to emphasize the good news, is that the biggest opportunities in Bitcoin is when you buy the bottom of the bear markets, right? That's how you got an 8x, right? From the bottom of the 2022 bear market to the top of the 2025 peak. That's an 8x in that return. So an 8x in 3 years is a fantastic return, right? So the biggest opportunities is when you have capital to deploy at the bottom of a bear market. Now, do I believe we're going to see an 80 to 70% drawdown like we have in the past? No, I don't think so. And the reason for that is quite simple. If you don't have a euphoria phase, if you don't have retail smash buying the top, then you're not going to have retail panic selling the bottom. You're not going to have it. It never happened. In fact, guys, retail has not come back since 2021. And you can make the argument that the reason for that is because of the macroeconomic conditions, the position of the Fed, and the fact that they haven't really lowered rates this year fast enough, quick enough. Like President Trump wanted, like the markets wanted. You saw Anthony Pompliano talk about this at length. So again, Bitcoin's never really kind of existed in this environment where it's fighting up against these macro headwinds. But next year things change, right? You have President Trump appointing a more a new Fed chair that's going to go along more with his policy. I would say that the Fed this year, and again, I'm not the only one to think this, Senator Lummis, Caitlin Long, I would say the Fed was a bit antagonistic this year. I think that they've tried to sabotage Trump's first year as president heading into the midterms so that the Republicans perform poorly in the midterms. I strongly believe that. Why? I mean, it's just a case of incentives. If you have a pro-Bitcoin, anti-CBDC candidate, and you have the other party is anti-Bitcoin, pro-CBDC, and if you're the Federal Reserve, what is the future of central banking and the Federal Reserve? It's a central bank digital currency. It's not Bitcoin. Bitcoin takes power away from them. So do I blame them for trying to essentially sabotage Trump's first year? No, I do not. Right? Do I think that they acted politically? 100%. Absolutely. Right? The good news is, again, you're going to have a new Fed chair next year. And again, you're going to have a more favorable macro situation, which, again, goes to the fact that nobody knows what's going to happen in 2026. It could be bearish. It could be bullish. For now, my base case is the 4-year cycle is intact. Saylor is preparing for that as well. And the 4-year cycle is intact until it gets broken. When it gets broken, and what broken would mean, what I would define as broken, is if Bitcoin in Q1 or Q2 of 2026 went above 115, 117K. If I see Bitcoin go above 115 and 117K in Q1 and Q2 of 2026, then I'll say, hey, guys, throw away the 4-year cycle. It's over. We're in uncharted territory. We're already in uncharted territory, but the 4-year cycle is still intact. So anyways, that was the intro. Saylor, again, bearish Saylor. Saylor preparing for potentially selling some Bitcoin. Who would have thought? Who could have imagined this world, right? Like, this is not something that I had in my bingo cards whatsoever, right? I do want to read some of the chat. Again, I am hosting the show solo this week while Opti is taking a well-deserved vacation, a Christmas break with his family, so I'm going to be holding it down. We're going to be having special guests this week as well. We're going to be having Luke joining us. Of course, my beautiful wife, Sophie's going to be joining us as well. So it's going to be a great year, a great week, I mean, and then Opti's going to be back next week for the New Year specials and stuff. Anyways, let's check out some of these comments. James Combo Marino says, dude, what are you talking about? Talking about accumulating a cash position is not selling Bitcoin. This is such a short-sighted thought. I never said Saylor was selling Bitcoin. I said that Saylor potentially would sell Bitcoin. Like, I'll play you the clip. It's not my words. It's his words.
Above 1 times MNAV, the most efficient thing for a public company like ours to do is to sell the equity. Below 1 times MNAV, we just get lots of questions. And there are skeptics that are doubtful, well, could you sell the Bitcoin? Would you sell the Bitcoin? And the answer is yes, we could sell the Bitcoin. We could also sell Bitcoin derivatives. And we would do.
So there you go, bro. That's not my words. It's his words. Right now, MicroStrategy's MNAV or Strategy's MNAV is at 1.1. They clearly said in that presentation, if it goes below 1, they are open to selling Bitcoin. So that's not an opinion of mine. That's something that he said. Let's take a look at this. Down under blues. The Fed, the left, the deep state are all trying to sabotage Trump's presidency. They will never stop. I mean, I honestly tend to agree. Not all of it, but I tend to agree with the sabotaging part. Again, why? Because Trump is a pro-Bitcoin, anti-CBDC candidate. Someone else said, the bottom is when Saylor is forced to sell some Bitcoin. That would be rough. I would not want to see that because that bottom would be low. That bottom would not be a high bottom. That bottom would be like in the 30, 40K region. So I hope that does not happen. And I also don't see I don't see Bitcoin going that low. Like I see Bitcoin reaching its 200-day moving average, which is around 55 to 60K. I don't see Bitcoin going below that. If it even goes to those levels, I would be extremely surprised if we saw 30K Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, you never know. You never know. That's what, that's what being in the industry for almost a decade has taught me. Here's Drinks Kool-Aid, says, can't trust a clown who puts all his cash into one asset. Down Under Blue says, I don't believe that is what strategy is doing. I mean, I pulled up all the data for you, bro. I literally pulled up his tweets, and I literally pulled up the video, so I don't know what that means. Bitcoin Barber says, smash the like button. Mulago said, or Mulu, I can't pronounce that, says BTC and MSTR keep dollar cost averaging, no worries for at all. I mean, that's not what they're doing. Drinks the Kool-Aid says these metals don't do anything. Is Nico brain dead? I mean, okay, fine. I was a little bit hyperbolic in that statement. Gold is used for many tech products. Silver is used as well. It's not like they don't have any use cases, but when I say it that way, I mean, like, look, like gold is not a good, you could say it's a good store of value. You could say gold is scarce, but I don't think gold is good money. Why? Because of its physical characteristics. You can't send gold overseas. It's extremely difficult. Like, yes, you can pay for the security, you can pay for the storage, you can pay for all of that. Is it instantaneous settlement? No. Is it instantaneous sending? No. Is it going to cost you a fortune to transport? Yes. Is gold extremely heavy? Yes. You can send millions, billions, trillions of dollars of Bitcoin halfway across the world, around the world, for pennies on the dollar. So that's what I mean by when I say that these metals are just not, they're just not, they don't do anything. That's what I mean. And I was a little bit hyperbolic on that statement for sure. Someone saying, bring on 40K Bitcoin, cheaper sats. Someone saying 20K easy. Oof, man, that would be terrible. I absolutely do not want to see that. Lightning Goats, by the way, go check out Lightning Goats. I doubt we'll drop any more. 80K is the absolute floor. Lightning Goats has been around for a while. And then someone else says, be prepared for 30K Bitcoin. So anyway, so it seems like someone's saying be prepared for 40K. Someone saying this bearishness is worse than the first 4 months of 2022. I mean, that's exactly what Joe Carlasare was saying. He's saying the exact same thing. He's never seen things as bearish as they are right now. And I think where that bearishness is coming from is the uncertainty in the markets. Right now, people don't know what is going to happen. And I would say that is bullish, ladies and gentlemen. That it is extremely bullish, because for the last year, for the last 2 years, for the last 3 years, everyone thought with 100% certainty that Bitcoin was just going to go up and to the right forever. And now we have uncertainty. We have doubt. I mean, I pulled you guys that post by Joe Carlasare. It's a very, very strong post, ladies and gentlemen. Like, check this out. During my time in Bitcoin since 2015, sentiment has never been worse, in my opinion. Today, I talked to a friend who has held since 2017. He is seriously considering selling his entire position, 7-figure position. He didn't even think about selling in 2022 at the FTX bottom. This really feels different. This is what I'm talking about with the sentiment. But where is that sentiment coming from? That sentiment is coming from uncertainty, because you can't look at Bitcoin's previous historical performances and how its structures and its blow off tops and the 4-year cycles and accurately map out what you think is going to happen into the future. I would say that is fantastic. Bring on that uncertainty, because that uncertainty is what we had in 2017. It's what we had in 2013. If you guys remember, it was not a sure bet that Bitcoin was guaranteed to win. It was not guaranteed to win. None of this was guaranteed. And because none of this was guaranteed, it created asymmetric opportunity. So I would say bring on the uncertainty. I like it. I didn't like, and I said this in the beginning of the year. If you guys go back, I bet you can catch me saying this. I said it in January and February of the beginning of 2025. I said, you know, the only thing that has me a little bit skittish and that has me a little bit worried heading into the end of the year, it's the fact that everyone and their mother believes that Q3 and Q4 are going to be bullish. And markets do the exact opposite of what the consensus thinks. And you know what the consensus thinks right now? The consensus is confused. The consensus has no idea. Even these institutional reports are telling you it could go either way. We just don't know. I love that. Bring on the uncertainty, because the uncertainty is opportunity. It creates asymmetric opportunity, because if everyone thought this was a sure bet, then they wouldn't be selling right now, right? They wouldn't be selling. They would just be buying more Bitcoin, right? So I would say bring it on. I think this year we saw a massive amount of sell pressure from these OGs that have been holding on for 15 years since Bitcoin's inception. And they're selling a lot of this Bitcoin. I don't know why. I don't know what the reason is, but I'm glad the uncertainty is back in the markets, because this is what the early days of Bitcoin felt like. This is what 2017 felt like. 2021, not so much. This is what 2016 felt like. It wasn't a sure thing that Bitcoin was going to win. And that uncertainty is starting to creep back in, right? It's starting to creep back in. Where like people are like, can Bitcoin go higher? Are these diminishing returns that bad? Are we only going to get to 250K by 2030? Like, that sounds depressing. People start to look for opportunities elsewhere. Like the fact that gold outperformed Bitcoin this year. Gold is up 60% this year. Silver even more, right? The fact that those things happened, the fact that the S&P 500 outperformed Bitcoin, the fact that Bitcoin is down 6% the year, you know what that does? It causes people to question Bitcoin. It shakes people's conviction in Bitcoin. It causes people to sell and to look for opportunities elsewhere. And when those types of things happen, that's when Bitcoin effing rips. So bring this uncertainty. I absolutely love it. And this brings me back to the good old days. And in the good old days, the only thing that I had to tell you guys, I couldn't tell you guys and look at charts historically and say, listen, guys, it's going to go back up. Look at the 4-year cycle. The 4-year cycle theory wasn't even a thing. The plan B he wasn't even in the scene. All you had was Andreas and Max and Stacy videos. It's the only thing you guys had, right? But the thing that made me so certain that Bitcoin was going to win back then, and those basic principles and those basic characteristics have not changed. What are they? Bitcoin is the best money the world has ever seen. There's only 21 million Bitcoin. Bitcoin is backed by the largest decentralized the computing network the world has ever seen. Like, those characteristics alone should tell you what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is freedom. Try sending a wire, try sending a Bitcoin transaction. Try sending a wire for a large amount, try sending a Bitcoin transaction. Tell me which is better. You'll literally know. You'll literally come to the conclusion, okay, I know who's going to win. So again, pay attention to the core characteristics. Remember why we're here. We're here to fix the money, fix the world, and Bitcoin is here to do that. And if you pay attention to that, everything will take care of itself. And the current price action, the medium-term price action is just noise. That's my opinion. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. We're going to start it. We have tons to cover. I have a clip also, too, more bullish, by the way, of Michael Saylor talking about how if strategy accumulates 5% of the Bitcoin supply, it can get to $1 million per coin. And if they accumulate up to 7% of the Bitcoin supply, it can get to $10 million per coin. That is crazy. So we're going to play that clip. And then also during the news segment, I got some things lined up for you guys. Some bullish news heading into 2026. regarding the Clarity Act. And I have an amazing article written by Shinobi from Bitcoin Magazine, and he's talking about the involvement of Wall Street and how the involvement of Wall Street has fundamentally changed the game, and if it's a good thing, if it's a bad thing. So it's going to be an incredible show, guys. If you guys are enjoying it so far, make sure to smash that like button, consider subscribing. We're going to be right back in just a sec. Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody. Guys, go to stampseed.com today. Get yourself a StampSeed titanium kit. It comes with the hammer, the metal stamping tools, and again, you stamp your seed into a plate of titanium. Some StampSeed ASMR there. And again, guys, don't write down your seed words on paper. Stamp them into titanium. This is the newly released 12-word titanium plate, only on stampseed.com. Use promo code SIMPLY. Again, promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $87,780. Block height, 929,155. Market cap, 1.75 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 5.5%. Decline from all-time high, negative 30.4%. So everybody has their panties in a bunch. Saylor's preparing a cash position. You know, people are saying the 4-year cycle, we're heading into a bear market in 2026. And at the end of the day, we're only down 30%, right? Again, this is interesting, ladies and gentlemen. This is very, very interesting because, again, Joe Colasari said it. I feel that sentiment as well. It is very weird that the fear and greed index is all the way to the fear side, even though we never hit the peak, even though we never hit this crazy all-time high. We barely broke all-time high. In fact, if you adjust the all-time high for inflation, we really didn't go that much higher than 2021. If you adjust Bitcoin for inflation, the US dollar price for Bitcoin for inflation, and you compare the 2021 peak and the 2025 peak, it really, in percentage terms, it really wasn't that big of an increase, right? So again, could this be diminishing returns? It could be that Bitcoin is a big asset. It could be all those things. But again, I'm going to go back to what I was referencing in the beginning of the show. Remember the basic first principles. Bitcoin is the best money the world has ever seen. There's only 21 million, of which 4 million are lost. It is absolutely scarce, censorship resistant. It is backed by the largest decentralized computing network all around the world that are consistently hashing 24/7, right? So again, if you look at the basic characteristics of Bitcoin, if you look at what Bitcoin has done, it's never been better than it is today. Like if you told me, just common sense. We were at 100K last year with a antagonistic administration. And you told me that you had a pro-Bitcoin president that went on X and said, I want to make the United States the Bitcoin capital of the world. And you told me that he owned the 6th largest Bitcoin treasury company. And you told me that his media company bought like $40 million worth of Bitcoin yesterday. And you told me that Wall Street banks are interested in buying Bitcoin. There's a picture of Michael Saylor at the JP Morgan building, right? If you told me that all of those things were to happen in 2025, right? The fundamentals have never been stronger. So what could be happening? I think it's Wall Street shenanigans. I think it's a combination of Wall Street shenanigans and OG selling. I think that's what's happening. And because this has never happened before, because there's nothing to compare it to, it creates uncertainty and doubt. And that's why we are where we are. That's my opinion, but I could be wrong here. Anyways, moving on to today's clip, let's check it out. Here's Michael Saylor talking about $1 million Bitcoin, $10 million Bitcoin, and what are the conditions in order for Bitcoin to hit those levels.
We're up to 3.2% of the entire supply. It cost us $50 billion to get to 3.2%. You know, I'm thinking that the next $50 billion won't get me 3.2. It'll probably get me 1% or less. And I'm thinking if I come up with a few hundred billion, I might, you know, what I've said is if we get to 5% of the network, Bitcoin's going to be $1 million a coin. If I get to 7.5% of the network, it'll be 10 million a coin. So think of it as I'm buying something, getting exponentially more expensive, using exponentially more money. And where do we top out? You know, I think we top out between 5 and 7.5%, and then we just exponentially slow down, right? And the rest of the network is right now. It's, you know, after $100 billion of money from BlackRock and $50 billion from us, 85% of the Bitcoin is held by the OGs. Exactly. After the next $1 trillion from the big institutions, maybe it'll be 75% will be held by the OGs. So think of us as powering the network up, and we're pushing against an exponentially hardening asset. And that's the way it should be. Look, 95% of the Bitcoin's been mined. By the year 2035, 99%. That last 1% of Bitcoin comes out between the year 2035 and the year 2140. It's 100 years to get the last 1%. And so we look at it like that, and we will just be like the little engine that could. We will keep, you know, turning the crank.
There's your bull juice, everyone, because I see somebody in the comment. I see people in the comments saying we need Opti back. Nico ain't no bulltard. And then we had someone else says Nico's getting into his own head, letting the negativity get the best of him. I don't think so, guys. I completely fundamentally disagree with you. I mean, I've laid out the facts, guys. Look, strategy is accumulating a cash position. That's true. Saylor could potentially sell Bitcoin if Strategy's MNAV goes under 1. That's also true. That wasn't the case 6 months ago, right? Like, this is not me getting into my own head and saying, oh my God, I'm feeling bearish and whatever. This is me reading what is happening and forming an opinion based on that. And then not to mention the fact that I've been doing this for a decade, right? Like a third of my life I've been doing this, right? So again, you start to pick up some things, and you start to learn some things, and you remember certain feelings, right? So, but again, I told you guys, I gave that disclaimer in the beginning of the show. I said, hey, listen, this time could be different. This time already is different, right? So we won't know until Q1 and Q2 of 2026. That's really what's going to let us know if the 4-year cycle is playing out like it always plays out, or if this time actually is different. But what I can tell you for a fact is that strategy, and this is the Yahoo Finance article, not Nico saying this, that strategy themselves are potentially preparing for a crypto, to use their words, a crypto winter, right? So I'm just reading you. Don't get mad with the messenger. I'm just reading you the source material. I'm reading you what I'm seeing. If I was just bull-tarded the entire time, guys, like, I would be doing you a disservice. I want to tell you guys what I feel from the heart. I want to tell you guys what I feel is the truth. And if I tell you things otherwise just to make you feel better, I would be doing you a disservice. I wouldn't be doing my job. And I honestly couldn't live with myself. So I always have to tell you exactly what's on my mind, exactly how I feel, and what I'm seeing, how I'm reading the room. In the beginning of 2025, I saw a comment on Rumble. I was posting $500,000 Bitcoin in a picture of Donald Trump's face because I was so bullish with a pro Bitcoin administration. Like, think about this logic, because it makes no sense. How can you have Bitcoin outperform a pro Bitcoin administration during Operation Choke Point 2.0? Bitcoin performed better during Operation Choke Point 2.0 during 2023 and 2024 with a hostile administration than it has performed during a pro Bitcoin administration. Like, what is the logic in that? There is no logic in that. That's why I was so bullish in the beginning of the year. I was like, dude, this is gonna rip. This is awesome. Like, all the regulatory hurdles have been cleared away. We don't even have to deal with them anymore. Obviously, that's not how it played out. But again, don't have expectations of the Bitcoin bear in the Bitcoin space. Stay humble, stack sats, stay solvent, and that's how you win. It's a long-term accumulation strategy. And again, I don't think I've ever seen someone fail doing that. When they start playing with leverage, when they start playing with margin, when they start playing with all those things, that's when I see people get wrecked. That's when I see people lose a lot of their Bitcoin. But if you just stay humble, stack sats, stay solvent, you're going to be just fine. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. We still have tons to cover. Some bullish news regarding 2026, regarding the CFTC. SEC Chairman Atkins signals the crypto market structure bill is close to passing. Again, what is he referencing? He's referencing the Clarity Act. Again, there was 2 major pieces of legislation that we are looking at. Again, this is all thanks to the Republicans' big win in the House and the Senate and the presidency and the executive branch. We had the Genius Act, which was passed earlier this year. You guys remember the picture of Elizabeth Warren with her hands on her hips, all angry and stuff. And then you have the Clarity Act, which looks like it's going to pass in Q1 and Q2 of 2026, which again is very bullish from a regulatory perspective. And the Clarity Act actually has more to do with Bitcoin than the Genius Act. The Genius Act just focused on stablecoin. So overall, very good news from a regulatory perspective. But like you guys, I'm twiddling my thumbs and I'm thinking, I remember I saw Trump's speech at Bitcoin 2024. I remember, I saw it. And he kept all his promises. He freed Ross. He ended Operation Choke Point 2.0. He did all these things. But what was the key promise that he made, which is, I think, the most important part, was that Bitcoin was going to moon. Bitcoin hasn't mooned yet, President Trump. I think that's what we're all waiting for. This is the most basic thing, right? And again, you could say, and I saw this comment earlier, you can say that his administration has been getting sabotaged by an antagonistic Fed. And you could say that they have been playing games with the interest rates, right? You can make those cases. You can make all those cases, very strong cases, by the way. But anyways, guys, next year he's not going to have that excuse because he's going to appoint a new Fed chair, and I'm assuming the Fed chair that he's going to appoint is going to be pro his agenda, right? So anyways, guys, it's going to be an incredible show. We still have tons to cover. Also, an incredible article by Shinobi, basically talking about the involvement of Wall Street, right? So anyways, and I also, did I play the clip? I don't think I played the clip for you guys. Anyways, we're going to be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, everybody. I do want to tell you about the BitKey wallet. Guys, this is literally the easiest hardware wallet on planet Earth to use. It has multi-sig built in, has inheritance built in. This is the perfect gift to give to somebody on this holiday break, on this holiday season, right? Merry Christmas. Again, you got your dad, you got your mom, you got your grandfather, your grandmother, and you know, and they have their Bitcoin for whatever reason it's still on Coinbase because they're not using Bitcoin well. Get them a BitKey so they can take self-custody of their Bitcoin. All you got to do is you put your fingerprint on it, you tap with your phone, boom, you're ready to spend your Bitcoin. And again, like I said, has multi-sig built in. Scan the QR code on the screen right now. Check the link in the video description. And again, use promo code SIMPLY. Again, promo code SIMPLY to get 20% off. Go to bitkey.world today. All right, everybody, let's jump into today's story. So what am I talking about? David Sachs says Clarity Act markup set up for January. Who is David Sachs? David Sachs is the AI and crypto czar. White House AI and Bitcoin czar David Sachs said Senate committee leaders have confirmed a January markup for the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, a market structure bill aimed at setting federal rules for digital assets. Goes on to say, Sachs said he spoke with Senate Banking Committee Chair Tim Scott and Senate Agriculture Committee Chairman John Boozman, who confirmed the schedule. We had a great call today with Senator Tim Scott and John Boozman, who confirmed that a markup for Clarity Act is coming in January. We are closer than ever to passing the landmark crypto market structure legislation that President Trump has called for. Thanks to their leadership, as well as Representative French Hill and Congressman GT, I don't know what that congressman's name is, in the House, we are closer than ever to passing this landmark crypto. The Clarity Act is a bipartisan legislation intended to create a regulatory framework for digital assets. I also believe it protects self-custody, which is fantastic. It would clarify jurisdiction between the SEC and the CFTC. Anyways, the Senate Banking Committee has previously targeted a December markup, but delayed it this week till early 2026. The report said Senate Democrats held a private meeting to discuss a GOP compromise proposal introduced by Scott's team and considered a counteroffer. CEOs from Citigroup, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo also met with lawmakers to discuss the legislation. That last part, that last sentence, if you're going to take anything from this article, I want you to focus on that last sentence, because that last sentence is the signal. CEOs from Citigroup, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo also met with lawmakers to discuss the legislation. That is the signal. That is the sauce, ladies and gentlemen. That means that, again, you have major banks, which again is confirming what Saylor is saying, that 2026 is the year that major banks come into Bitcoin, come into crypto. Why would Citibank, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo want anything to do with Bitcoin or this legislation if they didn't feel like it affected them, right? That's another thing. Another thing I'll say also is, again, I love the fact that it's bipartisan. If you want a piece of legislation to survive, you want it to be bipartisan. The Genius Act was bipartisan. This act, the Clarity Act, it seems like it's going to be bipartisan as well, which is great because that means that there's longevity there. When you have a one-sided bill, like if it was only supported by the GOP, or if you had an executive order. I don't like executive orders because executive orders can and will be reversed by the next president, especially if that next president is from the opposing party, right? So again, this is very important. I love the fact that Genius Act was passed. You can say Nico, but that has to do with stable coins. That has nothing to do with Bitcoin. I'll say stable coins like Tether are a Trojan horse for Bitcoin. It gets people exposure to digital money, basically, right? And then once they get exposure to digital money, they'll come to the conclusion that Bitcoin is better money, right? But if you are stuck in the traditional banking system and you don't have exposure to digital money, for example, you don't realize how easy it is to download a wallet and start receiving and sending Tether, right, as a dollar equivalent or a dollar replacement, then you're never going to even consider the idea of thinking, oh, wow, like, you know, Bitcoin is better money. I could use Bitcoin is actually even easier than the traditional banking system. Anyhow, moving on to this part, SEC Chair Paul Atkins signals the crypto structure bill is close to passing. And again, this confirms what the AI and crypto czar is saying as well. I have the clip. Let's check it out.
You know, there's a market structure bill that's going through, the Clarity Act that was passed by the House. We'll see where that goes in Congress, and so I'm hoping that they'll be able to get that through. But in the meantime, we in the CFTC will be, and already are, you know, actively working on harmonizing.
So again, he doesn't seem as optimistic, doesn't seem as bullish as the AI and crypto czar David Sachs. But I was how do I say this? I did receive confirmation from people on the Hill that they are optimistic that this will pass. Also, Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, the largest, you know, crypto exchange on the face of the planet, he also feels very optimistic that the Clarity Act will pass as well. So again, I think this will be one of the biggest pieces of pro-Bitcoin legislation ever passed in the United States of America. Genius Act was good, but again, it focused primarily on stablecoins. The Clarity Act is really going to be the first bill that is going to be focusing on digital assets. And I believe like part of the clauses in there, part of the legislation is, again, protect the right to self-custody. At the end of the day, you know, the bill can change until they pass it. So we're going to stay on top of it. We're going to look into the details. Anyways, during the culture segment for you guys, we have a lot to cover. Shinobi wrote an incredible article for Bitcoin Magazine talking about, you know, how things have changed since Wall Street has come onto the scene. But before we get into that, I do want to give a shout out to the Simply Bitcoin merch store. Guys, if you want to help support the show, the best thing that you guys could do is check out our sponsors, check out our partners. But also, if you want to directly support us, guys, and you guys want high quality merchandise, again, we pay attention to details. This is not drop ship. We buy every single piece of merch, we leave it in inventory, and we ship it directly to you. These hoodies are so comfortable. They're the type of hoodies that you never want to wash because of the initial comfort level, right? The shirts are high quality. You got the Simply Bitcoin hat. You got This Is Not a Negotiation. Again, get yours while supplies last. We literally shipped out like 50 orders last week. So again, we're running out of sizes on specific shirts and things. So you guys want to get yours while supplies last. And again, it really, really helps the channel. We really focus on attention to detail. This has the Simply Bitcoin on the back. It has Bitcoiner slavery on the back. Again, very, very high quality merch. Get yours at simplybitcoin.com. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture. We have tons to talk about. We're going to be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank. And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. And join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom. All right, everybody, we are back. Guys, before we move on to the culture segment, I do want to give a shout out to, of course, our sponsor, Best Place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Who am I talking about? Bitcoin Well. The reason we love Bitcoin Well here at Simply Bitcoin is that it's automatic self-custody. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. To get started, all you got to do is go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. Now, when you use that URL, bitcoinwell.com/simply, you get 3 tosses into the wishing well. And you guys might be asking, Nico, what the hell is the wishing well? The wishing well is a contest where every single time you play, you win some sats, but you have the opportunity to win up to 1 million sats. So think about that for just a second. If you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, just for signing up, you get 3 opportunities to win up to 1 million sats, which is like $800 these days. So we're gonna play it live for you guys on air right now. Get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code has won. The grand prize today is 572 Satoshis. What are you waiting for? Go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today. All right, everybody, let's jump into today's article. What am I talking about? Here's an article written by Shinobi. Wall Street is Bitcoin's biggest threat, not arbitrary data. He goes on to say, Wall Street has unequivocally arrived. The long-awaited phase shift is here. We have discussed for years what this time period and shift will be like, many cheering it on in anticipation of the economic implications and shockwave it would cause in terms of liquidity and price movement. Guess what? We never got that. In the last few years, it has undeniably come to dominate the narrative. This is true, shaping dialogue and focus across the entire ecosystem. Where before, large communities of people would spring up around technological innovations or philosophical schools of thought on how Bitcoin can positively shape the direction of the world in a time of tumultuous change and metaphorical ground shifting out from under us. Now the cultural zeitgeist is driven by the phenomenon of treasury companies. So I've been telling you guys all year. This is an entire wave of recent entrants into the space who have never held their own keys, never directly interacted with the protocol themselves. They have simply acquired proxies such as treasury companies, equity, or ETFs. This is a massive cultural shift. This is a massive cultural and philosophical and logistical shift for the entire ecosystem. It is not going to wind itself back. This is a new presence and a new attitude that we are going to have to confront, and it's here to stay. So what are the implications of that? Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer system. Its very essence and nature is defined by people who choose to participate directly in the system itself, by those who do interface with the protocol directly, who do not resort to TradFi wrappers such as ETF products and equity and holding companies. It is one giant intersubjective hallucination manifested through and verified with software. So what does it mean when that a massive section of the population who chooses to interact with it financially avoid ever participating in that hallucination themselves? What does that mean for its nature, its functioning? That is very much an existential question, and one that we are all going to have to grapple with over the coming years. Bitcoin is for anyone. I love how you said anyone, because I don't agree with the Bitcoin is for everyone. I agree with the Bitcoin is for anyone. And there is nothing we can do to stop people from using it whatever fashion they choose to do so, no matter what the wider implications of those people's choices might be. The nature of Bitcoin, the consensus rules that nodes enforce, is defined by those who actually engage in economic activity on the network. In its most abstract sense, Bitcoin is just a system composed of people just doing things. And the only reason that it is a singular coherent system rather than a random collection of individuals doing very different and incompatible things is because of the economic incentive to do the same thing. Think of it in some ways as similar to a black hole. That black hole forms in the first place after reaching a point of critical mass, after which it literally implodes on itself, and the resulting gravitational force begins pulling everything around it, increasing its mass and expanding the radius in which things are sucked into its dark maw. The incentive to voluntarily choose to participate in one particular set of rules over another is the black hole of Bitcoin, and its gravitational pull is directly proportional to the economic mass of that system as it exists today. Unlike a black hole, though, it is not truly a singular thing. Rather, it is a number of different things all holding themselves together to emulate being a singular thing. Unlike a black hole, these entities can choose to defy the incentives to remain together or follow counter incentives against doing so and enforce or follow different sets of rules. The reason this does not frequently happen at scale, such as the fork of Bitcoin Cash in 2017, is the complexity of coordinating all of those individual entities switching to the same thing at the same time, so as to maintain the same collective gravitational force as they would have under the previous rules. So what happens when those number of entities start shrinking? What happens when they condense and combine and you wind up with fewer and fewer larger ones? That complexity of coordination starts getting less complex. Centralization is efficient, but it is poison to Bitcoin. 100% correct. We've been harping on this. We've been beating the battle drum. We've been saying this all effing year. Ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoin treasury company. If you want exposure to it, great. If you want exposure to an ETF, great. But does it replace Bitcoin in self-custody? Absolutely not. If you want Bitcoin to succeed, you want to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. You want to interact with the Bitcoin network. You want to run your own node. Get yourself a Start9. Literally, there's a link in the video description. Run yourself a node. It's never been easier to run a Bitcoin node than it is today. If you're not taking self-custody of your Bitcoin, you're not participating in the Bitcoin network, and the Bitcoin network will fail if not enough individuals are actively using it. Because as Shinobi pointed out, that's what aligns the incentives. Like Bitcoin's incentives aren't aligned because it's this happy kumbaya. Bitcoin's incentives are aligned because people feel like they're economically incentivized to play by the same rules. But if you have a massive player like BlackRock that is holding all this Bitcoin on behalf of their clients, let's just say they say, hey, you know what? Actually, we have to start censoring certain Bitcoin transactions. Like, you can see a potential fork coming down the road, right? So how do you fight against that? How do you stand up against that? Well, you want individuals holding Bitcoin in self-custody, and this is how you win. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that was Simply Bitcoin Live for December 23rd, 2025. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, make sure to smash that like button. Consider subscribing. I'm going to be holding it down solo this week. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. We're going to be having Luke as a co-host who's joining us. Of course, Sophie. And I'm going to be doing another solo show as well. So again, guys, love you all. Appreciate you all. We wouldn't be here without you guys. Again, smash the like button, consider subscribing, share this video with your friends, and of course, we'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.